Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
7:07 on WMAL. Neiman and Wilson with you. 1 hour from now, the governor of Virginia will be here. It is Super Tuesday.
It's Super Tuesday.
A lot of people going to the polls probably have already been there.
That's right.
Been there and done that. We'll talk to the governor, Governor Bob McDonnell.
Checked one of two boxes.
That's right. You only have two choices in Virginia this morning, Ron Paul and Mitt Romney. Bob McDonnell coming up at 8:06. Larry Kudlow on the economy at 8:36. Dr. WALID PHARES joins us now. You see him on Fox, also the author of the book, The Coming Revolution. Dr. PHARES, here's my question to you. I mean, President Obama gave a big speech at AIPAC. He's met with Benjamin Netanyahu. He said in his speech that there's too much loose talk of war with Iran, but at the same time he also said that Israel has every right to defend itself and the United States would support it. Was that a green light for Israel to do what it needs to do against Iran? Or, how did you see his speech? How did you read his speech in the meeting with Netanyahu?
Well, first of all, this speech is happening in an election year. That will take away 50% of how we're going to analyze it. But let's focus on the substance. On the one hand, President Obama told the public, the audience at AIPAC, that if Israel is under pressure, the United States will back it, meaning if Israel is attacked. That's very important to understand. If Israel is attacked, we will be with them. But the missing link here was, will Israel be given the right to preemptively attack the Iranians to stop any attack? And I think that the position of the president is no. We would like you basically to be with us, we're going to be with you, but let us consider that together and don't have your strike on your own. Mr. Netanyahu responded that, yes, we agree on everything with the exception of one. That is, if we assess that the Iranian missiles equipped with WMDs or with nukes are headed against us, there is no time for negotiations or discussions. Right. We're going to strike and make the phone call later.
What is your sense? I mean, is this close for Israel to take action preemptively and try and stop Iran from continuing with its nuclear program, or is it just a bunch of loose talk right now?
Well, look, the Israelis and Mr. Netanyahu last night in his speech to AIPAC made it clear, would never say when they're going to shoot and when they're going to send a missile. They don't have the size of the United States military machine to say, well, we are going to invade Iraq, we're coming at that day.
Right.
That's not what they can do.
They're going to do it in the middle of the night.
They had like the Entebbe operation when they went into Uganda and freed some of their citizens, when they did a strike in Iraq in 1982. This is the kind of thing that they would do. But it seems to me, nevertheless, that Israeli intelligence and American intelligence are talking to each other. I mean, below the surface, of course, they are talking to each other. It's the final decision that the National Security Cabinet in Israel, the same way we would do it here in Washington, if they feel that there is that kind of a threat, they would do it. Do I see it right now? I don't think so, because the Iranians would have to have done more steps. What the Israelis want to have is the freedom to decide when and how, if that happens.
There is breaking news as we speak right now from the Associated Press that Iran will now allow a one-time UN inspection of its secret nuclear site, the so-called Parchin site. I know that may have broken even while you were getting on the phone, but what's your reaction to that?
Oh, coming from Iran, we've seen it many times over the past, 8 years now. And they said, this is one site and you can see it one time. It's almost a third grader game. Of course not. If the Iranians want to let go of their system, what they do is hold a press conference like the South Africans or the Ukrainians have done some 15 years ago and let go of their nuclear system. So, no, I wouldn't believe that the Iranians have changed course so far.
One of the things that you hear is that, okay, the United States understands that Israel needs to have the right to defend itself. And we heard the president say yesterday words to the effect of, I've got your back, Israel. But I think there is a difference of opinion between Israel and the United States, or at least the Obama administration, about what will happen. What will be the reaction if there is a strike against these nuclear sites? What happens on day 2?
Well, it could be projected for both Israel and the United States. If Israel alone does the strike, then it's going to have to receive the massive response by the remainder of the Iranian missile force, if they have so, by a possible remainder of Syrian missiles if Assad is still in power. And, of course, keep in mind you have those thousands of rockets, not necessarily long-range missiles, out of Lebanon, plus terrorist activities against the Israelis. It would be the same scenario against the United States, but on a global scale, meaning the Iranians have shown that they have a presence, intelligence presence, within the United States. Remember a few months ago when we dismantled a cell that wanted to perform an assassination in Washington. And of course, the Iranian intelligence and Hezbollah are present in Venezuela, in the Caribbean, northern Mexico, in Africa. So it's also the same type of reaction, but the scale will be different.
Do you see any way that Iran doesn't get the bomb unless there's military action? I mean, is it possible that sanctions could work, or that there could be some kind of revolution within the country where, you know, the mullahs are overthrown?
You just named all of them. It's like a hand that needs all of its fingers, meaning strike alone can degrade. Economic sanctions can slow. Only a revolution on the inside can basically do it. But a revolution on the inside needs to be, irrigated, given support. So what we need to have is an administration backed by a Congress who have made a decision that they want a regime change. Without that decision, every other element of our power cannot apply. With the decision that we're going to, at the end of the day, bring down that regime, as we've done with Libya or elsewhere, then that could work long term.
Now, John McCain called yesterday for airstrikes against Syria. Obviously, what happened in Libya was very controversial, and it would be extremely controversial to have airstrikes against Syria. But is that the proper way to go about in handling the problems that we're having now in Syria with airstrikes?
Look, it's like saying we have a policy for Syria, and airstrikes are one component. Of course, airstrikes alone are not going to do it. You've got to have all the components, and more so for Syria than for Iran. Definitely what you need to have in Syria is basically an alliance, a partnership with a force on the ground, the Free Syria Army. You've got to also make sure that Turkey and Jordan are with you in this operation, backed by Qatar and the other Arab countries. So airstrikes are, let's say, 20% of a policy that could help in Syria, and maybe you won't need airstrikes if the revolution on the ground is fast. So it's front burner, back burner. What we really need is an architecture, a war room in Washington that knows what it's doing and basically partner with the right people in Syria.
Well, do you think that what the president meant when he said, "We've got your back," could it be interpreted as saying, okay, Israel, you go do what you got to do in Iran, and we'll make sure that Syria is not a problem for you?
It's difficult to imagine it that way because there's always in the speeches regarding Iran, we have all the tools on the table, but diplomacy is what we're going to use. With Syria, we have all the tools on the table, but diplomacy, let's try diplomacy till the end. Once that changes, once the narrative changes and say, we want Assad to leave and we'll use all the tools to have them down, then probably that would be a different direction.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Phares. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.